Logical fallacy of the week this week is affirming the consequent or affirming the consequence, one I see quite a bit. And I think you'll start to see it if you think about some of the arguments being presented to you, you're going to see it quite often. I've seen a lot of these arguments in the last 10 years. Okay, I'm going to read the description to you. It's a little bit garbled, but I'll use some examples. I think you'll clearly see the problem. When someone mistakenly infers that the opposite of a true if-then statement is true. So correlation does not equal causation is also part of this. And I threw the correlation does not equal causation because you hear that. Like if you take a stats class, right, you might hear this term and it's accurate. Correlation is a relationship. Causation is, right, one thing causes the other, okay? So, let me give you an example. Like if we correlated foot size and scores in a standardized test. So we took first graders all the way up to 25-year-olds and we measured their foot size and we looked at the standardized test scores, okay? We might find that people with bigger feet score better on the test. And there's going to be a relationship that forms there. It appears that foot size could be driving test scores, improvements in test scores. But obviously there's some other factors there, like just getting older, going through the educational system, so forth. That's what driving. So the cause wasn't foot size. The cause of the improvements in test scores was not the foot size. The cause was other things, right? And so the relationship is interesting, but we don't want to infer causation just because of the relationship. We need to think clearly about it. All right, so let's go back to, this kind of plays in affirming the consequence, okay? Affirming the consequent, affirming the consequence. So here's an example of the logical fallacy, affirming the consequent. When it rains, the street is wet. The street is wet today, therefore it must have rained. Okay? So, again, you're seeing the relationship that between raining and the street being wet. And so when you see the street wet, you assume causation must be that it rained. Well, what are some other reasons that the street might be wet? Right? You could have a fire hydrant that broke loose. Okay? You could have a street sweeper that went through. Somebody could have been watering the yard and got water over it. I mean, there's a water main could have broke. I mean, just because the street is wet, it could be just part of, maybe it's a really foggy day, right? The dew point was really, so on. You get the point. Okay? Is that you can't work backwards from a relationship to assume causation. Okay? There are many examples of this going on in our culture. Okay? What about this one? The supplement produces weight loss. Sally is losing weight. Sally is consuming the supplement. Okay? So the supplement produces weight loss. Sally is losing weight. Sally must be consuming the supplement. Okay? Because supplement and weight loss go together. Sally's losing weight. She must be taking the supplement. No. Like I see you see this in like a world of sports. I'll give you an example. Somebody does really well. Oh, they must be on anabolic steroids. Because anabolic steroids does improve performance. But you're inferring just because there's a connection between anabolic steroids and sports performance that somebody's doing well must be on anabolic steroids, right? Now you could change this up a little bit to say, Sally took a supplement for weight loss and she started exercising and she started losing weight. The supplement caused the weight loss, right? No, it could have been just that the fact that Sally's exercising, that weight loss came about, right? The supplement had nothing to do with it. Or maybe it did. We don't know. That's the point. We don't know what was the factor that led to Sally's weight loss. And so to say it was just the supplement, maybe it was a combination of both, right? There's something interesting going on. The relationship it's not like it doesn't matter, but we need to think critically about it. What's the actual cause and effect going on, right? We know the effect, but what's the actual causation of the effect? So again, it's like going back to the example of the wet street. We know the street is wet, but what caused the wet street? I checked the weather and it turned out it did rain last night. Great. But then I find out there was a fire hydrant that did break too, right? So again, we have to do some investigating. And that's the point. You got to look into these arguments closely. You have to look at the source of what's driving the outcome and the potential source is. And many arguments are not just one source. Like I mentioned before, it could have rained and you could have had a fire hydrant break and the dew point could be really low and it caused some condensation on the street, right? All these things could have happened together. That requires us to think critically about the situation. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.